meeting is being recorded.
Let's go. With you for another episode, alongside Bianca Leger, we interview the owner of Green Mountain Synergy, where it is their mission to produce the highest quality, most affordable CBD products on the market. Located in Brandon, Vermont, in the United States, the company always values people and our planet over profit. He's an experienced grower and greenhouse manager who has a deep passion for sustainable farming and holistic practices. He graduated from the University of Rhode Island, where he attained his bachelor's degree in horticulture. Welcome to the Winner's Circle, Grant Jakubowski.
Thank you for having me, Derek.
Yeah, very excited to have you on this conversation. You and I go back to the original Go For Your Win, and I'm excited to chat with you about that. But first, our first question that we ask everyone, the goal of this podcast is really to uplift, inspire, and empower others on their hero's journey to move forward with greater faith and belief in themselves. And we start off with a very positive question, because it's a very positive, optimistic podcast. And that is, Grant, what do you love about your world right now? Not about all the chatter, all the news, but what do you love about your world right now?
That's a great question. I got a lot to love and appreciate right now. I feel like I'm in such a blessed point in my life. I have fell in love with the cannabis plant at an early age. Whenever I started getting formally acquainted with it, and was able to see how much it affected me in a positive way and how much I was able to benefit from using the plant. And it's been a wild evolution to watch the plant, or watch what it's become and how the industry has opened up. So not only CBD was kind of my first real opportunity to work with this plant, but right now Vermont is in the process of opening up their recreational market. So I'm in the process of applying for that license as well. And I'm going to be starting a legal THC business along with my CBD business. So I have a greenhouse full of amazing plants. I have a property that I just bought a couple years ago that I'm really making into my own. I'm doing a lot of different farming, from fruits and vegetables and a lot of cannabis. And it's just an amazing point in time in my life to be able to grow this plant openly, to be able to talk about it openly, to be able to make a business out of it, to be able to help other people with it. It's just so cool, because it was not that long ago where I was having to hide it and getting arrested for having a small amount of it. So to see that transition happen is really beautiful. And it's just such an awesome opportunity that I find myself in.
Yeah. Wow. That's some perspective. That's so true. Wow.
Yeah, I was just saying, so part of the application process was we had to go into the police station to get fingerprinted. And I was in there a few weeks ago doing this process, and I was networking with other growers, talking about cannabis openly. And even the cop that was there, we were like having a great conversation about it. And it was just so different from the last time I was in there getting fingerprinted for, like I said, being arrested for a small amount of it. And I just thought that was like a very cool experience to kind of get from
a full circle journey, and I'm excited to explore your hero's journey in this conversation. But before we do, another question that we like to ask all guests to start off these conversations is about their mission. And from participating in the Go For Your Win course, which really inspired this podcast to be, you know how important the mission is. And I read the mission of your business, Green Mountain Synergy. But what is your personal mission, Grant? Your mission that overrides all that you do, from your role in your business to your role as a brother, a friend, and all things that you do. What is your mission here on Earth?
That's another great question. I think that it's defining itself every day, and I'm trying to show up in my most authentic, highest version of myself. I'm still trying to find exactly what that looks like and how that's going to present itself to the world. I feel like it does change constantly, as I feel like I'm just on this really progressive course of evolution personally, where I feel like the more potential I tap into, the more I realize it's there. And I really just want to see where this potential limit is, and like how much I can access and how much I can share, and how fully I can be my authentic version of myself, which I think will be the most impactful and honestly the most fun and inspiring and beautiful life for me and the people around me. Like, I don't know if you heard the Matthew McConaughey podcast with Aubrey, but like, I love that way of looking at life, where you find that point in life where what's best for you is best for everybody around you. And I think that if you can find that like sweet spot where you're doing what you're here to be doing, it just unfolds in such a magical, beautiful way that you never could have predicted. And I've really seen that personally the last, probably since I have really accepted, I feel like, taking that leap into the hero's journey and said yes to the call. I feel like it has just unraveled and expanded in ways that are so much more powerful and so much bigger than I ever could have anticipated. And things are just happening at such a like a really fast rate right now, where I can't even begin to think about what 1 year from now is going to look like, or even 6 months. It's just, there's so much potential, and there's so much just amazing things that are happening every day that are changing the opportunities and opening doorways for tomorrow, that it's just really just showing up every day, trusting that I'm here for a reason, trusting that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, going by that feeling instead of getting caught up in my mental mind and my thoughts a lot, which is what kind of tripped me up a lot in my beginning of my life. I didn't trust and I didn't feel or go with my feelings as much, and I was much more mentally guided, I feel. And I'm now really trusting my intuition and trusting my inner guidance, and whoever else is helping me along the way. And I feel like I got a lot of help, a lot of support, almost infinite support. I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I just feel like there's just infinite potential, and I just have to just keep showing up and doing what I love, which is just such a gift.
I think so many people want this feeling. That's like, just you sharing that vibe right now has value, because this is something we all want to tap into. Like, what is it that I'm meant to do that makes all the people around me that I care for really happy, and I feel aligned with my purpose? I want to hear how you got there.
Mm-hmm. Important in that, I believe, is just really embracing the process, and that's what going for your win means to me. And that's embracing the process and embracing that journey, riding the wave that you are on now, rather than looking at the future and being very destination oriented. Like, I'll be able to smile, I'll be able to rest when I get into the recreational market, or when my product goes this big numbers in sales. But I don't feel you're doing that. I feel you're really enjoying the ride. You're embracing the process and you're enjoying it. And I think that's what this is all about, is to enjoy this life and embrace the abundance and the infinite support that surrounds us. That is going for your win to me. What does going for your win mean to you today, Grant? And what does your going for your win look in your day to day? What does your general day look like? What, I read your bio a bit, but what are you doing in your day to day as you go for your win?
Yeah, another great question. And I think that it looks differently for everybody. And I think going for your win is really a personal kind of endeavor that you have to discover for yourself and what that looks like. And I took a little bit to like figure out exactly what it looked like for me. And I still, like I said, I don't exactly know what it is going to look like a year from now or where it's going exactly, but I do know that I love working with plants. I really get to do that. And cannabis is one of my favorite plants. I do have a deep passion for all types of different plants and different mushrooms and all of these other products and offerings that I do plan on getting into. But cannabis has just been the first one that has presented itself as an opportunity, and the one that I've been pursuing as of late. But I do have a deep passion for so many different, that's why I chose the name kind of Green Mountain Synergy, really believe in the synergy of a lot of different stuff. And I really believe in the fact that there's so many different plants, so many different mushrooms, so many different modalities that we can use to heal ourselves and to find that authentic version of ourselves and find that highest self that is the healthiest, happiest, most productive, best version of ourselves. And I think as far as going for your win, it really is showing up every day and accepting the calls that are ahead of you, the challenges that you have, not like the physical calls, but what you are being called to do. And really go kind of doing what I don't know about the 4 agreements, but as far as like trying your best is really important. Identifying your mission on what exactly you are trying to do, I think is also important. So you're not spreading your energy and just wasting it in a bunch of different directions. And really, it's a really good question. Honestly, it's hard for me to put into words what going for your win looks like. I think it really is this pursuit of something that is personal to you and something that you love and something that you resonates with who you think you are and what you want to share with the world. And I really think it's, for me, working with the planet, working with others, because I really do. I'm a very social person who I like being by myself, but I really get a lot out of forming a team and being around others and leading a team and helping other people in whatever way that comes. Like right now it's through cannabis and through some other modalities. And I really look at every opportunity I kind of have when it comes to communicating with people. It's an opportunity to kind of help them in some way. And I really feel like I'm just trying to utilize my energy, my land's energy, and my personal kind of ability to help as many people as I can possibly help, including myself, and trying to really impact the world in a positive way that I'm able to. And I don't know if that's a great way of answering your question as far as going for your win, but I feel like as far as my personal win, I want to use my energy to impact as many people as possible in whatever positive way I can.
Beautiful. I think that was so well said, Grant. And so how are you doing that in the day-to-day? Like, what does your day-to-day look like of running a business, of being this entrepreneur with the CBD side, and then now expanding to the recreational? So yeah, what does your general day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so it's really different every single day, which I love because I got a pretty ADHD brain that loves to have a lot of different things going on. And it's perfect, I feel like, for being an entrepreneur, especially somebody that I have a really small team. I have a couple people that have been helping me out with my CBD business, and I got one business partner that I'm going to be going into the THC business with. But having to manage so many different aspects of the farm and the business, from marketing to even shipping and packaging to making products to hanging out with my dogs and making sure my relationship is good, to making sure that everything is like, it's just a lot of moving pieces. Right now we're actually renovating a storefront, so that's a whole nother thing. So it really is different every single day as far as what is being asked from you. And the other thing I love about my business in general is I get to work with the seasons. So right now we're prepping our fields and we're getting the fields all ready for spring. And I feel like this really allows me to kind of work with the ebbs and the flows of the season. I live in Vermont, so we get 4 true seasons around here. And I feel really bad for these people that got to work just as like 40 hours or 50 hours or 60 hours a week during the summer and then the same amount in the winter. Because I feel like I can personally, I don't mind waking up a lot earlier and going to sleep later and working 10, 12-hour, 14-hour days in the summertime. But in the wintertime, that's really difficult when there's just not that light available. There's not as much energy. I feel like it's a time when we're supposed to be slowing down and going inward a little bit more. And I'm able to focus on making products and doing more laboratory stuff where I like extract plant material, and I'm doing different stuff inside during those kind of colder months and getting ready. This is one of my favorite times of year because we're getting ready for the growing season. And I got my greenhouse. I just got a big greenhouse last year, which I'm super excited about. And I got that full of plants, and I'm getting ready for the planting season. And then that requires a whole lot of work. I'm building a fence and doing a lot of different stuff outside. And then when the summer comes, I'll be managing the crop, spending a bunch of time outside with the plants and getting everything ready for the fall. And then when fall happens, it's like full on abundance and just crazy time where it's just as much work as I could possibly handle, and just a lot of cannabis to harvest, and just that whole kind of full loop of the seasons and being able to start the plants every year, watch them mature, reap the benefits of the harvest, and then be able to make the medicine out of those plants in the wintertime, and then to have the whole process work with the seasons and allow me to kind of connect, I feel like, to the season and connect to the earth in a way that I feel like a lot of people aren't able to do when it comes to their jobs and their businesses that require standard production or standard amounts of things to do every day. Like I could never get up and do the same thing. Well, I probably could, but I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to go to a desk job, or I wouldn't want to do one aspect of even this whole thing. Like if I had to pick one job, I'd love to just be a grower, because I think that resonates the most. But I love the business meetings. I love the marketing. I like the whole kind of gamut of the whole of building a business is fun. And to me, I kind of get off on all of it. And it's just exciting that I get to wear so many different hats, and I get to do so many different things and work with the earth, work with soil, and work with plants. And I feel like I'm just blessed because I'm doing what I love every day.
That's amazing.
I get my dogs by me all the time. I got 2 awesome dogs. So it's just such a blessing.
Best part. Oh, that's so cool. It sounds like you are really wearing so many hats. Do you get a lot of support as well, or you're kind of doing most of the work by yourself?
So as Derek mentioned, I left at my other company about 2 years ago now. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic. It caused a lot of changes, and I had to separate myself from that company. And part of that was being able to start another one. So that took me about 6 months to a year to get my new company going. And my last company, I had a team of I had 3 other business partners and probably 5 people working for me. So it was a pretty big team at that point. And this one, I'm starting small, and I'm only got one kind of full-time person helping me out, who's great because he also can wear a lot of hats. He's graphic designer, good with a lot of different computer stuff, and he has a lot of strengths that I don't have. Like I do have my limits, and I can't do everything. I know I know where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are. I try to surround myself with people that can be strong in areas where I'm weak, and I try to do I know that I have to do a lot of different things, but I do try to outsource the stuff that makes sense, and I try to ask for help if I ever need it. Finding that point where I heard it. I think Jamie Wheel was on a podcast the other day talking about flow state, and he was talking about how we have to kind of be at that 80 to 90% capacity in order to achieve it and get it. And I feel like I'm pretty good at staying in that place, but I do sometimes get overwhelmed and feel like my plate's getting a little too full. And he was saying that when you get to that point of where you're overdoing it, you go into the fight or flight response, and you start getting stressed out, and you start becoming much less productive, and it starts having all types of problems. So finding that sweet spot and finding that area where I know that what I'm capable of doing and how much I can handle, and knowing when to ask for help and knowing what to outsource is something I'm still trying to figure out, but getting better at every day.
Yeah, the awareness is there.
Incredible. So let's get into why CBD. What are the benefits that made you so attracted to starting a business with CBD as your passion, as your keystone product? For the people that aren't aware, let's just talk about the benefits of CBD and then your journey that got you to CBD.
Yeah. So I actually had a little storefront that I was operating. I had a whole string of synchronicities that kind of led me into the CBD world. But one of the last ones was I had a storefront that I ended up operating, and it was right when CBD started kind of becoming popular, started becoming known. I actually had an idea to grow hemp probably 10 years ago. Vermont was one of the first states that actually had a legal hemp program. And I could have been one of the first people producing CBD in the whole, possibly like one of the few in the world that were doing it back then when I first started hearing about it 10, a little over 10 years ago. And it was people that were just vaping it for like anxiety and stuff. It wasn't even like an internal product. The only like hemp that was being grown at that point was like this true industrial hemp that was like 2% THC content, and really just grown for fiber and seed, and not the hemp that we have today. And the industry is just, it's insane what it's done in the last 10 years. So I watched it go from like this nothing thing that was just a little bit of like some people were talking about it here and there, to this mainstream behemoth. And right before it became mainstream was when I started my company. I kind of saw the thing happening, and when I had the storefront, I was selling CBD products, and I was seeing how many people it was helping. Like, honestly, I was skeptical at first because I'm a big time cannabis user, and I was like, yeah, CBD, maybe it helps some people. But I like had a storefront and I needed to fill it with some products, and I started selling it, and I started seeing people's reaction to it and how they were benefiting from it. And it was quickly proven that it was not placebo, and this stuff is quite amazing for a lot of different stuff. People that were having sleep problems, people that were having pain, people that were having anxiety, people that had problems that doctors could not even solve, all types of autoimmune issues. A lot of those tend to be really beneficial with CBD, or tend to benefit from CBD. I think it's mainly because of the stress and inflammation, anti-inflammatory factors. It really reduces those two factors. And when you reduce stress and inflammation, you take care of a whole lot of problems. And that's why I think so many people are like, well, CBD can't be good for all those things. And it's like, well, it kind of is, because we're holistic beings, and a lot of our problems are holistic issues. And when you start sleeping better, a lot of times you start feeling better, you start having less anxiety, you start like, it's a whole trickle down effect. And I think that's what's so beautiful about CBD, is it gets along with almost everybody. I have very few people, if any, it's a couple people I feel like that have taken it who have been like, it didn't really do much for me, or they said like they didn't really like it. And I think people have to be careful with the products that we sell. They're full spectrum products, so they are strong. If you have no cannabis tolerance at all, people keep on saying, oh, you can't get high from CBD. It's like, I don't like that language, because it's not as psychoactive as THC, and it doesn't technically usually induce paranoia like a strong THC high can. But a high dose of CBD is you can really feel it, and especially if it's a full spectrum product that does have a little THC in it. But I think a lot of it is the terpenes and the whole synergistic effect of the entire plant together. And I also find it interesting that you literally can't even breathe the THC out of it. Like the difference between hemp and marijuana, the only difference is the THC content. So these smart hippies that were growing cannabis saw that the laws were evolving around the THC content. So they took the marijuana plant, and they just started breeding it for very low THC content and very high CBD. So we were able to get these strains that are, like I've started the conversation, hemp was typically only a 2 or 3% CBD content crop 10, 15 years ago. Now you can get 20, 25% CBD content. The flower looks as nice and smells as nice as any THC bud out there. And it's a completely different kind of industry and plant. And you can call it hemp, but like, this is not the hemp that we were growing 10, 15 years ago. And it's amazing what they've been able to do with the industry, almost too much, because like these people invented in crazy harvesting equipment that was able to, like, they invented specific combines so they could automate the harvesting and start growing hundreds or thousands of acres of the stuff. It just blew up. And what I watched happen was, it was like this the first year I got in, you could literally grow an acre of hemp and rush it, like just selling the dried plant material at the end of the year, because it was so valuable. CBD was like $50 a pound for dried plant material, just like dried plants, which is a lot. You could get probably a couple $100,000 an acre for that. And everybody heard that you could get rich growing CBD, so everybody grew hemp. And it was crazy, because I just watched like nobody could even give away their hemp the next year. It was nuts how it just went from like this insane bubble that just bursted, and there was so many people that got burned. But luckily we had a vertically integrated brand. We were doing things very differently. I learned so much. I think I look at that last business as a masterclass in business that I got paid for, and I got so much experience out of. And now I'm able to take all those lessons, take all the learning and growth, and implement it into another company that I feel like is really based on our current market value of hemp. So as I was saying, back in the day when it was 2 or 3% CBD content and the laws, it was really hard to even grow hemp. Vermont was like one of the only states who could grow hemp. There was very few states that even allowed it. Most of the hemp was coming from Canada or from China, or even like Asia. A lot of hemp was coming from there and people were extracting that. But what happened was during that boom, they figured out these genetics that could grow 20% CBD content, and they figured out these ways of just maximizing production. So you could get 10 times the amount of CBD. The extractors got better, the harvesting got better, the genetics got better, everything improved. But what was interesting was the prices for the products pretty much stayed the same. So when the price of the hemp plummeted and everybody lost their shirt that was growing it, the products did fine and the market pretty much stayed the same as far as products go. And I think it's for a multitude of reasons. I think once a market's already established, a lot of times they're not going to like lower their prices once they already have a customer base that is used to buying it at a current price. And a lot of these companies were formulated and they were branding way before this crash. But even so, I think what mainly is happening is there's an uneducated consumer out there who's being taken advantage of. And people don't really understand the cannabis plant. They don't understand CBD. They don't understand how to even understand a product. I know people that have been taking CBD for a long time, and I ask them what brand they're taking and how many milligrams they take. And they can't even answer those two basic questions, let alone if it's full spectrum or isolate or how the crop was grown or anything, any specifics about it. It's a very unregulated industry where anybody can kind of start a CBD company and start selling CBD. And you really got to trust the people you're getting it from. And I just see so many companies out there charging insane prices for just low quality, crappy products that a lot of them don't even work, which is sad because there's a lot of people who I think have tried a CBD product that was just not a good CBD product, didn't even take an active dose of it, overpaid a lot of money for it. And they had a bad first experience and they're like, well, CBD doesn't work for me. I tried that. I paid $100 for a bottle that did nothing for me. And it's really sad because I feel like if they actually went to a high quality company like me and got a really good quality product, they could have paid 10 times less and actually got some effective results from it. So it's just, as somebody who's been in the industry for a while, it's frustrating seeing so many consumers still being taken advantage of. And that's one of the main reasons why I started this new company where I was trying to have ethically priced CBD, because the more I started selling this stuff, the more I realized this is life-changing medicine for a lot of people. There was people who literally would write to our last company. They're like, I can't afford to buy my groceries this week because I need to buy your CBD because this is more important to me than my food. And it's just, it's insane where people are literally, they've gotten their life back from using CBD in some ways. And it doesn't do that for everybody, I guess. But I've seen enough stories and seen enough personal experiences through other people and through myself that I know that this plant is amazing at healing people. And I know that there's a lot of people that can benefit from CBD. And I hate seeing so many people say that they benefit from CBD, but they can't afford it. That should not be a factor, and it shouldn't be the case. If you need CBD, you should be able to access it for an affordable price.
Yeah, so let's educate about CBD, and let's begin by the various ways you can consume it, and then we'll get into the dosing as well, because I think that's like a big thing is people don't know how to properly dose it. Also, maybe differentiate like full spectrum product to kind of the lower quality things out in the market, and just really educate. And let's talk to it as if someone doesn't know anything about CBD. So let's just start at the ground floor and let's educate with this conversation, Grant. I really look forward to sharing your wisdom.
Yeah. So I encourage anybody, if they have any personal questions, reach out to me. I have my phone number right on the website. I have my email. You can even call me if you want to ask a personal question about CBD. But really, it is different for every person, which is why it's also so beautiful, but so confusing, because everybody needs to find what product and what dose works best for them. Some people have very mild issues and some people don't have any issues at all. And I still think they could benefit from taking CBD. I think where we should be going with medicine in general, and where I think CBD really shines, is as a preventative. I don't think we should be waiting till we have problems before we start working on problems. And I definitely don't think we should be waiting until they become crippling before we ask for help, which is usually the Western model. It's like, let things get so bad that we are so far over our head that we need somebody to professionally help us out. And I think if we could just use stuff like CBD and yoga as a preventative medicine, lower your stress and inflammation on a regular basis, get better sleep, just feel a little bit more relaxed. And I think that those will just prevent so many problems from happening. But it's really determines, it depends on the person and what you are using CBD for. If you have a real chronic problem, I've heard Dr. Dan talk about prescribing people 500 or 1,000 milligrams a day, like really, really high doses for serious issues, which is one of the amazing things about this plant is it's got such a wide range of efficacy. You really can't, like, it doesn't have like, oh, you start to have really bad side effects at a certain high dose. It's so safe to use even at the higher doses, that if you have some really chronic debilitating pain or some crazy issue you're currently going through, or you really need to sleep, taking a few hundred milligrams of CBD is not going to be a bad thing and might be exactly what you need. So it really depends on the person. I really like to take it just, like I said, preventatively, 20 milligrams every morning, 20 milligrams every night. I think the tincture is a really easy way to do it. Sometimes I will mess around with higher doses, especially if I do have any pain or inflammation. If I work really hard out in the fields, or if I end up hurting myself on the farm, one of my favorite products is using the salve topically. So we make a really nice topical salve where you can use that wherever you have the most localized pain or inflammation. For a lot of people that have skin problems, psoriasis, eczema helps out a lot with that. It really can help out with so many different things, and it really takes some experimenting to find what is best for each person. I always tell people to start out small. You can always take more, you can't really take less. You can work yourself up to a higher dose if you feel like you need to. And I think if you just start out with a routine for a little bit, you'll find exactly what it's doing for you and what you exactly need. Because some people just use it at night for sleep, which is great. Some people are using it for pain all throughout the day, topically and internally. Some people are using it microdose style, like 1 or 2 milligrams in the morning, afternoon, and night. Some people are macrodosing it because they just feel like they have crippling anxiety and they're getting on a plane and they really just need something that is going to really affect them and they can feel. So it really depends on the person and the use that they're trying to achieve. But I really think that everybody could be benefiting, not only people, but dogs. It's insane. Talk about no way the placebo is impacting that. It's the dogs and the animals that receive CBD. Sometimes it is like night and day. I've heard of dogs that are older that have their owners are like, it's like resetting the clock 3 years. Like my dog that usually was having a hard time moving around, he's jumping on the couch chasing squirrels again and acting like he was like 3 years ago. And it's incredible what it can do for animals and for people. And I think everybody should just experiment with it and find what is best for themselves as far as dosage and products go, because there's so many different products and so many different ways to dose it and a range of safe dosages that you can use, that it's a really hard thing to recommend unless I was talking about a specific person and a specific problem.
Mm-hmm. So one issue with the CBD market, I feel is, and you alluded to it, is quality product. Like your product is a much higher quality than some other products out there. How does the consumer know, like, how do they look for, like, what is a good product to even begin with, right? Because like a 20 milligram dose of your brand could be night and day compared to a 20 milligram dose from a garbage brand.
So true. Yeah, and it's very difficult. You really got to trust the people you're getting it from. There's definitely things you can look for. There's test results that any reputable business should post on their site. They should say if it's a full spectrum product or an isolate product. We can talk about that real quick. So
Yeah.
a full spectrum product contains all the elements of the plant, and it has a little THC in it, has all the cannabinoids, the terpenes, the flavonoids, all the components of the plant, which is what we make and what we use, because we believe that it's the synergistic properties of all those plant, all the cannabinoids and all the terpenes and all those plant components coming together that makes the most effective product. And the isolate products, which is what it's more refined, so they'll take the concentrate and they'll just keep refining it to the point where there's only CBD in it, and it's a crystal that just looks white. And there's actually labs in China that have figured out ways of making this stuff that's not even hemp derived. So it's just a CBD molecule at that point, no other parts of the plant. And it really is and it makes perfect sense. I mean, when you look at the oil that we use, it's about 60% CBD content, and it's a really dark, rich looking oil. And the rest of the 40% is all the other plant constituents. And that is such a different experience. And taking, like you said, 20 milligrams of that versus 20 milligrams of an isolate product is a night and day experience. The only reason to use an isolate product, in my personal opinion, is if you're getting drug tested. There's still people that are getting drug tested, and even though it's just CBD, if it's a full spectrum product, it does have small amounts of THC in it, which can bioaccumulate in the body, and you can fail a drug test if you use it every day and you're getting drug tested. So that is the one main concern I feel like when it comes to using a full spectrum product, and the only reason why I would suggest using an isolate product over a full spectrum product. We've thought about potentially even offering an isolate product for this reason, but it's just not what we believe in. We don't really want to take our medicine that's really high quality and make it lower quality just because some laws are not allowing people to access. We think the laws are going to change eventually, but it is unfortunate that so many people still get drug tested for this plant when it benefits so many people, and there's all these other drugs that are sanctioned and okay to take that are not.
Yeah, no, this is such a fascinating conversation. So things in Canada are a bit different, and that's where I'm based and Bianca is from. She's currently in Germany. And I feel, in talking to doctors in this industry, that they say you'd almost go broke medicating with CBD because the prices are so unreasonable for the dosages here in Canada. And I'm not sure exactly if you could even get full spectrum. Like with the CBD that I'm enjoying and using is an oil. And I have my medical license, and I'm able to get like a pretty good one here, I think. And it's like 30 milligrams of CBD per, I think, milliliter dose, right? So for a milliliter, you're getting 30. And this is made out of medium chain MCT oil, so medium chain triglycerides, and cannabis. And I don't know if you would know what kind of oil that would be. Would that be full spectrum or ice?
Does it say full spectrum oil on it? Because usually they'll say full spectrum oil. Cannabis oil is really vague. Like usually they'll say full spectrum oil, or broad spectrum oil is another one that's a little tricky. That is like THC removal.
It just says 30 milliliters of cannabis oil. So 30 milliliters of cannabis oil at a 30-to-1 ratio. So 1 THC, 30 cannabis.
That's a full spectrum product. And honestly, Derek, that's like exactly what I sell on the 1,000 milligram formula. Just out of curiosity, what are you paying for that?
Canadian. So I'm not paying it like on the retail. In the retail, it's like more expensive. But since I have my medical, it's a bit cheaper. And so the brand that I use is Symbios, and it's $30 Canadian for 30 milliliters of 30 CBD
Yeah,
and 1 THC. And so I don't know. I think that's a decent price.
that is decent, honestly, Derek. That's pretty good. I sell a very similar product. The 1,000 milligram formula is, if you do 30 milligrams times 30 milliliters, it's about 900 milligrams. So the 1,000 milligram product I sell for $25. So that's not that much more expensive than what I offer. And that 30-to-1 ratio is very close to what my plant material is as well. So honestly, you're getting a very similar product than what I'm offering. And I think that it sounds like it's a full spectrum product and a good product.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Like, I've done my research on this, and I'm trying to getting the best what's available in Canada. And I've been a part of a national cannabis awareness program. I was last year, and I just got to learn a lot about cannabis in that time. And that's what led me to this and getting my medical license as a patient. And I feel there's so many benefits of it, and really no downsides. Like, from my research with that organization, like from all the studies I've read, like there's really no negatives that I came across about CBD. It's really a wonder drug, and it's amazing that you're making it affordable, because that's the number one barrier I see in Canada. It's just not affordable to the general consumer. At the and very small dosages. We can't get like 1,000 milliliter bottles legally in the normal market that you're able to sell in the States. And I've seen other companies selling big doses, and some people, not everyone needs that. Like you say, microdoses might be great, or maybe 10 milligrams. But if you're wanting to do the hundreds, you need 100 or 200, 500, even like 30, 50. If you're buying at the prices that it's offered, it's unattainable, it's sad and unfair. So it's really admirable what you're doing.
Yeah, and I hate hearing that. And I will also extend this offer. And unfortunately, I had a couple of people try to buy some products up in Canada, and the shipping is just such a nightmare to try to like get products up there that I can't really. I'd have to charge a ridiculous amount of money for the shipping and stuff, and I don't even know. I'd have to look into the legalities. I don't even know if I can legally ship my product into Canada, even though it's legal on both sides of the border. It's all just insane. But I will say, if people live in the United States and they still can't afford my prices on the website and they really benefit from CBD, like, reach out to me. Like, I have a program that I haven't officially announced, but if people are completely broke and they still can't afford the low prices that I'm offering, CBD is cheap enough where I can help people out, and I can get people that product if they really need it. And I really believe that it is life-changing for a lot of people. And I don't think that money should be a barrier of entry when it comes to accessing it, because knowing how cheap it is to produce, it really shouldn't be as expensive as it is, from what a lot of people are paying.
That's incredible, Grant. I have another question for you about CBD. So we've talked about tinctures and oils, consuming it orally, but then you could also smoke it just like you would smoke like a joint or a bong, like it's a regular THC product. What's the difference between smoking it and taking it orally, and how do you dose smoking it? It's a bit trickier, I believe.
I mean, it's so if you're familiar with smoking cannabis or smoking products in general, it's a very fast. It hits you quick, and the bioaccumulation is amazing. Actually, it's taking 20 milligrams of CBD via smoking is the most effective way to like get the most out of that 20 milligrams, and to get it the fastest, and to get it into your system. And if you smoke a joint of really high quality CBD, that's something that you can't deny its psychoactive effects, because those terpenes in general, I think if you could even just take all the cannabinoids out of that joint and just smoke the terpenes, you would have some type of like effect from it. And what I find, people that love smoking CBD the most, I think a lot of people benefit from it. And I think it's going to be a huge market, because there's so many people that don't want to get stoned and do enjoy the pleasure of smoking something And
Yeah.
there's a huge percentage of the population that start getting older, and they were big consumers of the plant earlier on, and then it starts to make them paranoid and they start to get anxious from it. And
Yeah.
those are the people that I found love CBD, because it's like provides a little tiny buzz and some nice relaxation effects, especially in the body and in the mind. But it doesn't have that associated paranoia and that like really like you can't, it's hard to get anxious or paranoid off CBD. I still think you can if you take too much of it. And I've known people that don't have like a tolerance to CBD, and they were like smoking a little CBD and they're like, oh, it's just CBD. And they're like smoking it for like several hits. And it's just like, you can still take a lot of like too much of it. If you're like very like low tolerance and very sensitive to the plant, you really got to kind of respect CBD, I feel, because it's a powerful cannabinoid. Even though it's just CBD, it can be a pretty powerful experience. And I think smoking, it's one of the most powerful. And we're actually going to be offering some nice hemp flower on the site here soon, where we can have people who are interested in utilizing it in that version, utilize it that way, because it's got a great time and place.
Yeah, and I think it's great how you said you could use it to replace like someone that wants to smoke a joint or rip a bong, but they don't want to, like, they don't want that effect of like that THC, whether that because that makes them paranoid or just because they want to be clear-headed for whatever they're doing. And that's like a nice way to still like smoke and continue that habit if you're not
tobacco.
wanting THC.
I've heard of people quitting tobacco and having it be a huge aid in quitting tobacco. You know, like you don't want to smoke a whole joint of THC because it's going to get you ripped in the middle of the day. But smoking a joint of some CBD and having that be a replacement for your cigarette, because a lot of people are addicted just to the habit of smoking something and to get outside and socializing and stuff. So if they can just smoke a CBD joint instead of their tobacco, I know a lot of people that have benefited from that as well.
Yeah, amazing. This is so interesting, so informative. I feel one thing we talked about that many people or some people don't really know about, and that's terpenes. THC, CBD, that kind of terminology is more familiar, but the terpenes, I feel that's like something people could really be educated on. So can you explain to us terpenes and how that affects and the different kind of terpenes with the different kind of plants?
Yeah, I think terpenes are going to become a huge they're already becoming a big buzzword, and people are starting to become familiar with what terpenes are. And I think that a lot of cannabis users are still classify cannabis by indica and sativa, meaning like the indica people refer to as indicouch, like it's much more of a heavier body, like go to sleep kind of herb. And the sativas are much more of an uplifting, kind of more cerebral, heady high. And I think that is 100% due to the terpenes. And I think that we got to reclassify these terms and stop using indica and sativa and start using cannabis terpene profiles to describe what the experience is going to do for somebody. Because as a cannabis grower, I've had really short, stout plants that exhibit all the traits of a indica plant that's fast flowering and really mold resistant and really chunky and short and stout and much more of a dense structured plant that you typically get from an indica, but it's got that really kind of citrusy, really limonene, super kind of just when you smell it. That's the thing that every cannabis user does when they first get a bag of cannabis. Before they even look at it, they stick their nose in it and they smell it. And I think that is often the best indicator on if that strain is good for you. You should be smelling it and seeing how it makes you feel just by the smell without even smoking it first. And usually people can tell what strain is going to agree with them by the smell. If you smell 10 different types of cannabis and the flavors and the terpenes are getting so exotic, and it's amazing what some of these plants smell like. It doesn't even smell like cannabis in certain aspects. It's like, so there's fruity ones, there's earthy ones, there's gassy ones, there's all these different terpene profiles. I think a plant can produce over 200 different terpenes and all those combinations of terpenes. It's really a limitless kind of palette of flavors and effects that it has available to draw from. And each of those terpene profiles in each of those combinations really affects the experience greatly. I think that it is, I don't want to say more important than the cannabinoids, but just as important. Anybody that had, like, I'd much rather have cannabis that was 20% or 10% THC and loaded with terpenes and super flavorful. And that would actually produce way more effects than the 20% THC that was just dried poorly and just does not have any smell and doesn't have that flavor and no terpenes. Like, we have to really educate the consumer on what these terpene profiles do and how important they are, because everybody knows THC percentage and everybody is kind of basing their decision makings on that. And indica and sativa, I feel like, is another thing we really got to stop like saying, because I do think there was truth to it back in the day. I think the original indicas came from India and came from Pakistan and came from Afghanistan, and had these really earthy, hashy, and certain growing tendencies and really certain effects that would produce to really kind of like those initial like couch lock effects. And then the sativas came from Colombia and Thailand and some of these other regions, and they were very long growing equatorial strains that could really take long flowering times. Like some of the flowering times were like 14, 16 weeks, and they had a completely different terpene profile. But what we've done with cannabis is we've hybridized everything. And we've mixed up all these sativas and all these indicas, and we've bred it so many different ways and so many different times that all those terpene profiles have been mixed and matched. And I really think it's the terpene profiles that are driving the high in the experience for the most part, because it's all THC at the end of the day. Why does one strain make you really kind of uplifted and wanting to clean the house and do a lot of work? And why does one strain make you more of a in the couch wanting to relax and go to sleep? I think it's very much devoted or because of the terpene profiles, and some of these terpene profiles are really uplifting and some of them are really kind of sedating, which is one of the reasons why this plant is so amazing. It's the only drug I think that I know of that has been classified as a depressant, a hallucinogenic, and a stimulant. So you can't put this plant in a box. It's just like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I need to like try to think where I'd want to take this next. I have so many questions about the cannabis, but let's explore the negatives. Is there any negatives that you see from CBD?
So not from CBD, honestly. For THC, I can see people that have had abuse issues, gotten psychologically kind of addicted to it, and had whatever problems they've had with it. Again, I don't know how much of that is due to the plant and due to like, well, they probably would have just had something else that caused a lot of those problems. I don't think this plant is ruining too many people's lives in the form of THC, but again, that's a different conversation. The CBD I love because I don't think that there's a single argument against it. I don't think that there is any real negative side effects from taking CBD. Besides the one main negative side effect is you're buying from a company that's overcharging you, and you're paying too much, and it's depleting your funds so you can't afford good food or something like that. But like, other than overpaying for your CBD and having it financially stress you out, like it seems to just be a home run for everybody, and it helps people with so many different problems, and I haven't seen it affect people negatively, really.
Yeah, and I really appreciate this honest conversations, because so often you see, especially on the anti-cannabis side, they only talk about the negatives. No, like it as if no positives exist, and we've already talked about many of the positives of the plant. So it's good to have this conversation. I also think another positive about CBD is it's a harm reduction strategy for someone that has developed a dependency on THC, because as you mentioned, there can be problems with THC. And that's why CBD is so amazing, is for someone that is becoming dependent on THC. And again, that THC is not the problem. The problem is the wound that they're using THC cannabis to heal, or alcohol or drug of another kind, or shopping or exercising or workaholism. We're all addicted to something, and it's it's used as band-aids for a deeper wound. And a lot of people are using THC to do that. And there, like you said, there can be negative effects of THC. But CBD is a harm reduction strategy to help wean someone off. It's hard to go cold turkey off of something, and someone has developed those habits of smoking when they're feeling stressed, or when they're feeling anxious, or just when they're feeling like down. And to get them to go cold turkey, it's often hard. And CBD could be that bridge that helps them become less dependent on a product that is no longer helping them forward, right? I think the importance of self-medication is using that medication to help us improve, help us to get better. But if we just use that medication and sit on the couch and do nothing all day, well, then it's not being used as medicine. It's just using it as a perpetual band-aid.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And it's been amazing actually, because I've heard of people not only using CBD to get off of as a THC supplement, but I've heard of people using it in hardcore recovery, like opiate addiction, and getting off of that and having it be an amazing aid for going through the withdrawal process and actually getting sleep, being a little less stressed, and like helping people off all types of addictions. It really, because a lot of it, our triggers are stress. And I know personally, I was using cannabis a lot, I feel like, to manage my ADHD. I didn't even know why I was really using it when I was at a young age, but I really know I loved it, and I felt like benefited from it in some way. But I think if I had access to a high quality CBD early on, and I was able to have that in my backpack at school and just take that every few hours for ADHD medication, I think I would have had an easier time in school. And I think it would have been, not that I had ADHD so bad that I got medicated. Luckily, I avoided all those, thank God. But yeah, I still feel like it would have been, and I even hear this from parents. There's parents who have are getting suggested from their doctors to get on medication, or it's medication, or should we try CBD? And they end up using CBD instead of these dangerous prescriptions like Adderall and all these other amphetamines essentially, and they have better results and they are much safer. And I think it's insane that we're not at least trying CBD first before we use these more harmful alternatives. And I think that there's a lot of people that can benefit from CBD in multitudes of ways.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And another thing I want to talk to you before we close this conversation is about adaptogenic mushrooms. And because I know that's something you're really passionate about and that you're wanting to integrate into your brand in the future. So let's talk about the power of mushrooms and how they could be really used for our holistic health and as a replacement to these pharmaceutical drugs and other products that are not only costly, but have a lot of detrimental effects on us and society.
Yeah, I agree. That was the first thing that kind of got me into this world. Honestly, I was at a farmer's market and there was this guy who was selling chaga mushroom, and it was this little synchronicity where I was kind of wanting to leave. My girlfriend was like, "Oh, let's just go down this one last little aisle and check this out." And we walked down, and it was just something about that table. As soon as I saw it, as soon as I saw that mushroom, I just was attracted to it. Went up, talked to the guy for 20 minutes. Was blown away that this mushroom was growing right around me my whole life, and I'd never heard of it and all the things it could possibly do. So I went out in the woods, started looking for it, found it, made a simple extract out of it, started giving it away to some friends and family. And it was the same thing with CBD all over again. But this is actually before CBD, but I just started hearing people be like, I don't have headaches that I used to get every day. Don't have pain that I used to have all the time. It is amazing what these mushrooms and plants can do. And I think that the mushroom world is just a huge untapped potential of healers that we have barely scratched the surface with. I actually have a friend, shout out to Reggie Saffron. His Instagram's amazing. It's called 802 Fungi is what it is. And he goes around and I'm actually starting to go on walks with him. I'm going to start releasing some YouTube videos I got a few recorded where we go around the woods, and he just is such a book of knowledge about these native plants and all these different edibles that you can eat out there, and all these different mushrooms and what they're good for and how to extract them. Just the whole world of healing potential that is just right in our backyard that we are just not privy to being educated on, and just do not know what is even out there and what these mushrooms are capable of. And I think that it's so beautiful working with all these plants and working with living soil and working with the whole network of the plant in the mushroom kingdom, and how connected it all is, and how these mushrooms are the communicators in the network of our entire planet, and how we have this mycophobia in our culture that is like just primed people for this experience where they have detached themselves from mushrooms their whole life. It's the same thing that happened with cannabis. I feel like we detached ourselves from this plant. We evolved with it for so long. We've used it for so many millennia. And then all of a sudden we just cut it away from our entire system. We used to feed it to our animals. We were getting CBD through our food not that long ago. Like, it was just in everything. We were growing hemp, and it was consumed, and it was used as materials, and it was fed to animals, and it was part of our ecosystem. And then we just demonized it with the whole cannabis plant, just cut it off. And what I think is going on with certain people when they experience CBD for the first time, it's their first time they're touching the cannabis plant. And that thing is, we literally have a system that's named after the cannabis plant. The endocannabinoid system is literally designed or called that because of the way that it reacts to the cannabis plant, and how much this cannabis plant is just almost meant to be consumed by us and meant to be used by us. And it has these receptors. It's the same thing with the mushrooms, it's like these things they're there for a reason. And we evolved with them for a long time. We used to know how special they were. Chinese culture and a lot of cultures still revere them as the pillars of medicine, and still understand how amazing these mushrooms and these plants are. But in our culture, we've gotten to the point where we're scared of them. And that is just so sad, that we have this, what Paul Stamets calls mycophobia, to the point where not only do we not recognize these things as the healers that they are, but we're scared to even consume the ones that are like in the grocery store. And people have just detached themselves from cannabis and mushrooms. And I think that they're arguably some of the best tools for healing and correcting things in our body and our mind and our spirit that we have. And getting them back into people's lives and incorporating them back into my life personally, and seeing what they can do for others. I think it's one of the things that's potentially could save us. So
beautiful. And I look forward to maybe having this AO2 fungi on our podcast to have a conversation. So you'll have to hook us up.
Yeah, well.
But what are your favorite mushrooms?
There's one other guy I want to connect you with. He's a mushroom farm down the road. He's called Champlain Valley Mushroom. He's got an indoor mushroom grow. It's super cool. I got some lion's mane and some reishi from him that I've been extracting. So yeah, sorry to cut you off. What were you gonna ask?
No, amazing. I'd love to connect with them and have them on. I know Bianca would as well, because we are 100% in agreement with all that you just said. My question is, so of the mushrooms, what are your favorites that you take regularly, and what are the benefits of them?
So reishi, lion's mane, and chaga are the main ones, just because I got such a good source of them. I actually have reishi that grows right in my backyard that I didn't have a lot of it last year. Like, it's the season or the environment just wasn't right for it last year. But 2 years ago, it was everywhere. And the wild crafted ones are much better than the ones you can grow from every test and study they've done on them. But I'm also a huge fan of psilocybin mushrooms. I'm really excited about those becoming legalized, because I do think that they are one of the most healing, profound substances that are also available to us. And it's sad that those are not available in these retreat centers or these places where people can access that type of experience, because I know how much potential that holds. But even just the non-psychedelic ones, and like I said, the reishi, the lion's mane, and the chaga are the ones I'm most kind of familiar with and using. But there really is the cordyceps. There's so many different ones out there. It's just that I'm gravitating towards the ones that are local and really easy and sustainable to source personally.
Mm-hmm. And what do you find the benefits? So like, what are the benefits of the reishi to you, the chaga to you, and then the lion's mane?
So I feel like honestly, it mainly for me, it's hard for me. I think I personally I can't notice the differences as much as certain other people, because I feel like it's almost like it's not like you have to have a problem, but it helps when you're like are fatigued and you take something that provides energy, you can really notice the benefits. Like I feel like, and I'm also have so many things that I'm doing. I like add different mushrooms to my coffee every day, and it's really hard for me to say explicitly, well, this mushroom did this for me. But I do feel like overall, they just make me feel better. I really like incorporating them into my coffee in the morning. I feel like my brain works better. I notice the ones I notice the most, honestly, are the psilocybin mushrooms, because those are hard to not notice when you take those. I feel like those become they honestly do remind me of what's important in this life, what I'm here to do. They're a huge tool for me as far as just getting in touch with the planet, getting in touch with what's important, and really just that the afterglow that I get. And I messed around with a little microdosing, which again, that's not even psychoactive, but it's pretty profound what the microdosing can do. But even after a nice healthy dose with some friends, it's amazing what the next day that I feel like. It's like this effortless day of just being my best version of myself, where things are just not bothering me as much as they usually do, and I'm just a happier, better version of myself, and it's just effortless. And that is one of the things I feel like is so special about those. It's just the state of consciousness that allows you to access and then persistent for a little bit afterwards. It's true medicine in my mind, and I know it's not for everybody, but I think that they can benefit a lot of people, or a lot of people can benefit from them.
Yes. Everything that you just said, I could be more in full agreement.
Feel the same way. Yeah. This is I'm so glad. This is such a valuable mind reframing. And for everybody who doesn't know or isn't familiar with CBD, I feel like I want to explore this product. I feel like everybody who hears this will want to check this out and see what's in there for them, because it's true. It comes from nature. It's where we're from. We've been consuming this for a long time, and it's just an invitation to reconnect with ourselves. So yeah,
it's so very admirable what you did and how you've carved this win for yourself, and your passion comes across the screen in this conversation to us all. But so often on the journey, our heroes get stuck. They get stuck at that crossroads of should and must. They feel that must in their heart, that you felt that must to pursue your passion for agriculture, for CBD, for horticulture. Sorry, for your passion for horticulture and for CBD. But then there's the road of the shoulds from society, from culture, from religion, from your family, from your friends that say, oh, you need to get a 9-to-5 job. You need to get a retirement fund. You need to play it safe. You need this degree. You need this house. You need this car. You need the picket fence. And often people go down that road because it's a lot less scary. There's a lot less unknowns. So how did you navigate at that crossroads? How have you used fear as an ally on your journey, Grant? And what advice do you have for people on their path to do the same?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I honestly, I started this kind of journey with, I don't know if I want to get into that story because it's a little bit long, but I had a previous job where I was working at doing the 9-to-5 thing, getting paid well, doing what I love. Actually, I was managing a hydroponic tomato greenhouse, and I really loved that job. I was very happy going to work every single day, and I got paid well. I had good benefits, and I had what everybody says is a good job, and it was a good job. But I then was exposed to Reiki through a synchronicity where I hired a girl, and that same week my girlfriend was told she should try Reiki. And on this girl's resume, she said she was trained in Reiki. Never heard of Reiki the first 25 years of my life. And all of a sudden it was just kind of thrown into my lap. And my girlfriend had a powerful experience when she went to have her first Reiki session. And she's like, you should really try this out. You wouldn't believe what happened to me. And for anybody that doesn't know, Reiki is kind of an energy healing through the hands. And I was like, well, I just happened to hire a girl who says she's trained in this, and I'll ask her if she's willing to try it on me. So I went to work the next day and was like, hey, can you try this Reiki on me? And I was like, I'm skeptical that it's going to do anything, but my girlfriend had a powerful experience and I'd like to try it. So she's like, yeah, sure, we can try it after work. And I lied down on the picnic table after work, completely sober, and she put her hands over me. And as soon as she put her hands over me, I had my eyes closed, but it was like flipping on a light switch. And the only thing I can compare it to is like a mushroom trip up to that point. I hadn't accessed those states of consciousness outside of a psychedelic experience, but it was full on energy flowing through my body, visions starting to happen, and just a powerful spiritual experience that I couldn't deny. And what was so strange was after that, I even had like my relationship with alcohol was like where I normally would like drink a few beers every day and like 6 to 12 on the weekend. After that session, I didn't even set an intention, but after that session, I would like kind of think about having a beer and I'd be feeling disgust and like kind of like sick to my stomach even thinking about it. So it was like, it was only a 10-minute session, and this girl wasn't some like guru on the mountain. She was just a normal like 22-year-old girl who happened to have like practiced Reiki on the side, and she just blew my brain on what was possible. And I just completely had to unpack all my beliefs. Up to that point, I was a pretty kind of staunch atheist, materialistic kind of looking at the world type of person. And it was just full blown like spiritual awakening, kind of starting a whole string of synchronicities that made it so where I normally would go to work feeling happy every day, within 6 months or a few months of having that experience, I was like, had that disgust feeling when I think about drinking. I had that going to work. I was like, there's something else I have to be doing. And I like couldn't exactly put it into words and what I was going to do. And what I didn't even know what it was. I just knew there was something else I needed to be doing, and somebody else could have been growing those tomatoes. So I just kind of took that leap of faith and really kind of, I remember even trying to explain it to my parents, and I was like, I really feel like I got this other thing I need to be doing and stuff. And they're like, oh, are you sure? You got a good job and all that stuff. And I was like, well, I don't think anybody's really took a leap of faith and followed their heart and regretted it. At least I haven't heard of it. So I think that is the main thing that people could do. And the main thing that I feel like I've been doing is really listening to my heart, really following that as my guide, despite whatever my brain tells me and comes in and tries to convince me otherwise. I really, if I'm being honest with myself, I know what my heart is telling me to do. And I feel like most of us do. And it's very different than what the brain will come up with. And it's very different than what your parents will tell you to do. And it's very different than what society will tell you to do. But it's really what you should be doing. And as soon as you start following your heart and you start taking those chances and those leaps of faith in that direction, it's just magic, and the universe really opens up to support you from what I've experienced. And that's been my personal journey and my personal blessing as far as having Reiki find me and having my personal own hero's journey open up and taking the call and just finding where my heart wants to go.
Incredible. Incredible. To close every conversation, we ask our guests these final 2 questions, and it's come at that time. In 3 words, Grant, how would you describe the experience you are having on this earth?
3 words?
Yeah.
Blessed, loved, and supported.
Oh.
We've had the opportunity to visit your past and examine the story that has gotten you here to the present. And I believe we all are magicians, and I'm going to use a bit of my magic, and I'm going to transport us into the future. I'm going to bring us to the far future, and we're going to be sitting alongside an 85-year-old Grant Jakubowski. Who is that 85-year-old man? Where are you? Who are you surrounded by? What are you doing? And what is the legacy that you've left here in your time on Earth?
That's beautiful. Yeah. I can't even think a year out. You're making me go like 50. Yeah, I think I'm gonna be right where I am now, honestly. I found my spot as far as home goes, and I have such a beautiful piece of land that I don't ever plan on leaving, and I plan on just evolving into my version of heaven on earth, which I feel like I'm already kind of living in. And I want a team of people around me that love me and I love them, which I feel like I'm already developing. I want my family to feel that same way. I would like to have a couple kids, potentially, at least one. And I want my dogs. I'm still going to be working because I love what I'm doing, and I love work, and I love what I'm working at. I'm going to still be exploring, still be questioning, and still be seeking, hopefully. And yeah, hopefully I'm still as happy and full of life and full of energy and loving the days as much as I am now. That's my hope.
Wow. Beautiful. Like everything you're saying in this conversation is resonating deep with my heart. I feel it. And I want you to feel what you're feeling just a moment longer, because I'm going to bring us back. I'm going to bring us back to the infinite now. And I want you to picture that 85-year-old man, and I want you to bring him into your heart. I want you to bring that 85-year-old Grant Jakubowski. I want you to embody him in this present moment. And that 85-year-old, before we leave, he sends you a message. What does that 85-year-old Grant, what does he whisper into your ear?
You're doing fine. Just keep going.
Aho. Aho. I'm so very grateful for this conversation, for this opportunity for us to connect, for you to share your story, for you to talk about the wonders of that miracle drug that is CBD. I'm so excited for what you do ahead with that plant in all markets, and what you have to come in the adaptogenic world of mushrooms as you bring that onto your product. You're doing it, brother. This is it.
Heck yeah.
For anyone looking to connect with you, they can find you at greenmountainsynergy.com or on IG at Green Mountain Synergy. I'm going to leave it to Bianca for her closing thoughts on this conversation.
Well, Grant, thank you for taking the time to share the information, for going back to the basics, for everybody to actually gain awareness on the value there is in our connection to that plant, and especially for creating something that has so much care for the ethical part, the really putting the people and the land forefront, and that transpires through everything you're saying. And I'm so grateful that we get to promote and share that message in your business, and I can see it evolve. I can see that this is just the beginning, and I'm excited for you as well. And yeah, thank you for what you're doing, because this is definitely having a beautiful impact on many, many people. And I think that there's a lot of people who are going to benefit from the use of CBD and all the products you offer. So just a big thank you for sharing.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys and having me on your podcast, and just sharing this whole last hour with you guys has been beautiful. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. To close every conversation, we bring our fist in for a digital fist bump, a step into the winner circle, a choice that we can all have. Boom. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on today's conversation.
Beautiful.